Hi, Tova. How are you?
Hey, Shifra, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, of course. So this is a little bit different for me as I have a really special friend and guest on this video today with me. This is Tova Amarjuev. And Tova reached out to me after I had posted a couple of videos, and which I have to say was so touching and like so meant so much to me, more than I think you actually probably realize. Um, because it was really validating and like I was happy that Tova expressed that she had um similar experiences, I want to say, which we'll hear further about from Tova herself. But I just want to introduce Tova and who she is. She's actually, I've known Tova for quite a while, but she's a good friend. We haven't really been in touch that much. Tova is a mom. She runs a business. She recently got remarried and is coming from a blended family, which is Kalakavo to you, really, which is incredible.
Thank you.
And she has really powerful and incredible message, and she's an incredible human. And it's an honor to actually be here with her. And I'd love for everybody who's listening and watching to be able to hear and learn from Tova and from her experiences. And I want to just start off by saying thank you for joining me, Tova. And if you can just give a little bit of background of who you are and why it was that you actually reached out to me, like what it was that that led to this day, this moment.
Yeah, thank you, Shifra. So, Shifra was vulnerable enough and brave enough to put out some videos on her experience of anxiety and medication and how she became closer to Hashem and herself just through and her struggles and how that she came to like really meet herself and like how she's living a whole new life. And really, that was so inspirational to me. And it really like opened something inside of me to reach out to her because I've been through, a lot of similar struggles myself, going through, my journey of life. And I remember when I was in my lowest moments, and I was thinking like I like thought I would never get out. The darkness was just so enveloping. I remember like reaching out to God and saying, God, if you take me out of this, I will spread this message to the world. I promise you. And then God did bring me out, and I did get out of the darkness, and I didn't see a way or a platform to spread the messages of hope and whatever we're going to be talking about. And when Shiva presented herself in such a honest, authentic, and meaningful way, I realized, hey, I can reach out to Shifra and really just, you know, strengthen what she's saying, perhaps, and really continuously and help spread, awareness for this topic that really is quite rampant and a human experience that I think most of us go through and is not like spoken openly enough. Um, and I would love to be able to give chizuk to the people who are going through this kind of thing. And even if you're not going through it, just to really spread awareness and perhaps alleviate some of the things, alleviate and make easier and hopefully use as a guide so that you don't have to go through some of the things that Shifra and I went through. You can kind of maybe, be led a little bit on the easier path, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My hopes is that we can be to people what, the spiritual healers or spiritual seekers, or the energy. There's like all the things and all the practices that we've sort of tried and throughout our healing journey. And the people that, I mean, I can't even tell you how many people I've listened to and how many people I've reached out to on YouTube and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. Right. But and then I've narrowed it down to the few that have helped me. So if we can be for people what those people have been for me, and you as well, for sure, what we're doing here, that would just be incredible. It would be so, so incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're here. 'Cause going back to what you said, strengthening what I've been doing, it really, 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 I wanted to just reiterate that because you nailed it. Like just to raise more awareness, like me and you, people know us, however they see us, however they perceive us. We're like everyday people, and we're going through struggles that most people, you know, can go through to certain varies, right? Various degrees, obviously. But, you know, we can put up a front. Like I've known you for so long and I've never known this part of you, right? You've known me for this long. Did you ever know I was even on medication, right? And it's like we've crossed paths multiple times, and it's like such a huge part of it was such a huge part of our life, still is in a positive way, and yet we've never spoken about it, right? And it's like to just make it more of the awareness, more of the awareness. So would you be like willing, or however whatever you would like to share in your experiences with medication, not medication, your anxiety, whatever you'd like to share, I'd love to hear about your experience.
Okay, so Kala Kavod Shifra. And sure, I'll delve right into it. Basically, the first time I experienced like a real panic attack was, I would say, about 8 years ago. I have beautiful twin girls who are 9 years old. And in the first year of raising twins and whatever hormones came out of it, I had my first panic attack. And it was totally unrelated to the babies, by the way. It was just something external. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely out of control. And I experienced a panic attack. And at that point, I didn't know what it was, right? All I felt was an extreme lack of control, and that made me panic. And then the symptoms of whatever panic I was going through scared me further. And it just like turned into this, like it was a one-time episode, but it turned into this fear of maybe this will happen again, and me realizing how out of control we are, right? Because we live this life of a facade, really, of thinking like we are in control. Like if we just do this, then we're in control of our lives. And if we just do that, then we are in control of our life. If this would have done this and this and this, right? Even when you look in the past, like maybe life would have been different, but really, you know, we're not. But our ego doesn't let us realize that we're not, and we're so attached to that, and we're so attached to what, I mean, we do live in a world of practicality and doing. So God created us this way, so obviously we use that. But I was really like not like surfacely aware of it. And I was scared, and I went to a doctor and a therapist, and they recommended that the first line of recommendation was, you need to go on medication. And I was like, these were professionals, and I was like, okay, like I trust them, I believe them. And I was feeling so off base and so horrible. And I just wanted to do anything not to feel the way I felt. And I trusted them. I was like, you know what, this is what I got to do. They're medical professionals. And even reaching out to the people around me, friends, certain family, things like that, and they're all like, yeah, of course, and this is what helps, and this is what you do. And I really wasn't even given like any alternative like things to do at all. Like obviously people recommend going to therapy, which does help, talk therapy to a certain extent and whatever else, but really this was it. It was like, this is what you got to do. So I started on the journey. And personally, I'm not like talking for anybody else who medication has really worked for and is still working for. Personally, for me, it took me on a ride for 8 years, or maybe a little less, for about 8 years, or maybe like 7 years, a ride that was really, I would say, just a roller coaster, like an excruciating one at times. And at the same time, I was going through a lot of changes in my life. And so circumstances, like when circumstances happen and you go through things, right? Even if you're taking medication, even if it's blocking certain, emotions in your life, like it's not a magic pill, you're going to feel them. And, being on the journey I was with medication and going through things I went through life, I really was always asking myself this question, like, I was functioning. I was able to function, and I was able to perform, and I was able to, externally be everything I needed to be. Thank God. But inside there was like an incredible unrest, I would call it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that I just want to, I don't need to go into the details, but the message I want to give, right? The details are not what matters. And if anyone really wants to learn from specifically, what helped, what didn't help, we can get there and you can reach out to us personally. But there's a message here. And fast forward 8 years of, going on certain medication, then there being symptoms of that medication. So you need to take a medication to treat the symptoms of that medication. And then that has different symptoms. So you start going on a different medication, being that there was that ride and like, whatever, I think like we've come and we've come to like, trust and really rely on it and thinking like, this is what's going to help, my anxiety. This is what's going to help my, feelings of pain and suffering. This is what's going to help, alleviate it. And really, it's not. It's not. What it can do, any form of, of pain and suffering we have, what it can do, medication or any kind of like substances you would like to do it, is help you escape a little bit or help you alleviate the discomfort a little bit. That's the payoff sometimes. But the cost of that is what I would like to talk about. So Shifra, maybe you can validate me on this a little bit. What are the costs of, when you're in pain and when you're suffering and when you're feeling anxious and afraid and really like, and sometimes it's really like a baseline fear. Like you feel like all your safety and all the rug under you is just being pulled and whatever. What is the cost of, just trying to feel better? Like that's all you think about in that moment. When we're in pain, we're in suffering and we're so uncomfortable. What is the cost of just, trying to make yourself feel better?
So first of all, thanks for sharing, because I think that's going to be really helpful for people. I mean, it's helpful for me. So really, thank you. And I think, the cost of numbing feelings, your emotions, your feelings, whatever you're feeling, it's a guidance system. It's there for a reason, trying to tell you something. So by numbing it with whatever you use externally, and that can be a variety of different things in different ways, right? It doesn't have to be medication. It can be, friendships, like you had mentioned at a previous conversation. It can be food, it can be drugs, it can be alcohol, it can be anything that your body, your emotions, your feelings are trying to tell you something. So you can numb it. It doesn't go away. So just as a basic cost, like forget what it does to your body. Emotions suppressed in the body will come out in so many different ways. I mean, they've linked it to cancer and they've linked it to heart attacks, right? Like we don't even have to go there. But the cost is that you're not really doing anything. You're really just numbing something that needs to be released, something that needs to be felt, something that needs to transcend, that needs to come through. So it's like an easy temporary fix, but it's still there. So you didn't really fix anything, right? You just kind of numbed it. But more to the fact that it's a guidance system, it's trying to tell you something. Like imagine you're in the car and your GPS is telling you how to get somewhere and you're just like, oh, I can't stand your voice. So you're just like, turn it off. And you're like, okay, but now how are you going to get to where you need to get to? Right. Because like it's trying to tell you something. So it's like, I can't feel this. I can't feel this emotion. Let me just block it, numb it. Okay, I understand. But it is actually trying to tell you something. And I will add, though, that yes, they can be painful and they can really, really hurt. So I'm not just saying, okay, be a man and just like suffer through it, right? Like we'll talk about that in a different area, but just as a cost, it is trying to tell you something. Your emotions, they're there for a reason.
Thank you. Thank you for expressing that so eloquently. And to add what Shifra said, not only are your emotions a guidance system, I actually look at them as a real gift.
Yes.
God gifted humans with a human experience of being able to feel things from this end all the way to that end. And at times it's superbly painful. And sometimes it is so beautiful and joyous, but we feel the range. And because we can feel the range from low to high, it is a gift. It's a gift to be able to know like, hey, I'm feeling so off. Something must really be off. Right. Right. And hey, like I'm feeling so empty inside, even though I think I'm doing everything right and I think I'm on the right path. That's a gift. God is telling you, like, hey, girl, go in a different direction. Like, this is not what's going to bring you happiness. This is not what's going to bring you satisfaction. When we go ahead and try to stuff it down because we have to sort of just keep going. And by the way, keep on being a functional person and keeping on going is a value. There
Yeah.
is a value. And I do want to put out the message that there are people who do find that right dose of medication and that right doctor and that right psychiatrist who actually like helps them find that sweet spot of like, just being able to function and help them and not blocking their emotions too much. And color code for those people, I do think they're far and few in between that are able to reach that. And if you are and you're in a good spot, like, good. But what my experience was and is anytime I try to block my emotions or cover them or assuage them with whatever it was, whether it's you know, a relationship, you want to just like get a relationship to make you feel better and to like, certain friendships, certain relationships, or whether it's, as you said, whether it's dedication, whether it's any other substance or any habit in the world that you have to sort of just like massage it and then you feel better and you numb it out. For some people it's scrolling on their phone, watching Netflix. Some people it's, whatever habit you decide to use that ends up being unhealthy. And you kind of know how do you know that that habit's unhealthy, Shifra? So the habit, it's the proof is in the pudding. You don't feel better. You feel empty afterwards, right? Maybe you can share with us how you experience and knowing that the habit, how do you know whether, there is, as we said, there is a value in functioning in the day-to-day life. So how do you know whether you're using something, as a way of being able to function or if it's unhealthy and it's going to bring you further away?
So I think for me, like before coming off of medication, life really, it really pushed me to the limit, to the max. It really pushed me to the max where I recognized this isn't okay. There's there was always this underlining feeling, let's say, because for me medication was a huge blocker, right? I mean, once I was on medication, then there was obviously Netflix or whatever it was, right? But for me, the medication was really the go-to to feeling good. And all those years, there was still this unease. There was still this like, what am I doing here? I don't feel right. Like something's wrong. Something's missing. This can't be the reason I was brought to this world. Like there was always these like deep searching, but I never really fully went there because it's like, don't go there. That's like the dark side. That's scary. And like your medication's working and let's just keep going, right? But you still, going back, actually medication's working, right? It's doing, like, it's manageable, but it's not really, I'm not feeling better. Like I'm managing, I'm functioning, right? And it could be to, then fast forward once I'm not on medication, like there's some days now when thank God I've really gone to this place where when I'm really feeling off, I can accept I'm feeling off and I'll just go and listen to calming music. I'll like really sit with it. But there are times where I'm like fully aware. Like I took a video the other day and I sent it to my mom and I'm like, I'm really not feeling good and I'm eating this food. And I just like indulged in it. And but there was that awareness. But at the same time, when I was done the food, it was great and I felt good. But time after was like, okay, Shifra, now you're not feeling right again. Where's this coming? What's going on? And then I had to face it, right? So when you're doing something to make you feel better, it's almost like a quick fix. And you feel better for that time and then it wears off. And
Yeah.
sometimes you even feel worse. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. It's really a temporary fix, which there could be value sometimes in that, but I think I would really narrow it down to whether the word I would use is a disconnection. When you are doing something that is helping and healing, you feel a certain connection to self, connection to to
Yeah.
God. You feel connected. And when you're doing something that's not aligned, you feel sort of a disconnection. And there's nothing more uncomfortable when you feel disconnected from yourself, from all those around you, from, it's really, are you feeling more connected or are you feeling disconnected? And when you feel disconnected from your feelings, when you feel disconnected from your neshama, when you feel disconnected, you're searching for ways to reconnect with yourself. And we all have a godly soul in us, right? Which we'll get to. And we're really disconnected from it because we're so blocking. And I found that, if you want to go back to medication, it really did block me from my neshama in a way. Like, because the sensitivity that God gifted to me, or to highly sensitive people who are more sensitive to whatever's going on around them. And I think most of us are highly sensitive. We talk about these highly sensitive people, how we're like, these like special small. I think a lot of us, many of us are highly sensitive, and we just kind of like block it and sort of build up walls and tools to block that sensitivity, because sensitivity is very uncomfortable sometimes, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about what we can do sort of when we're in that really, really uncomfortable situation, when we're in that dark night of the soul. We refer to it as, where we're feeling like, because eventually you will get to that, because you have to like just, your body will continue. Hashem will continue sending you the messages and putting you in situations again and again until you really do find that connection, because that's what we're here for. We're here to to connect. We're here to find our mission. Well, not find our mission. It comes to us, but I'm saying we're here to sort of, be able to find the path of a higher and meaningful life. So what can we do? What is the key thing that you can do when you're in so much pain, and when you're like in that dark night of the soul and you're like, that's it, God, like there's nothing left? Like, what is the one thing that you can, it sounds simple, like the one thing, but the preempting, like the first step of what you need in order to, for all the tools that we're going to eventually talk about to actually work and to connect and to sort of align. What is the first thing that you need to do when you're in so much suffering? What is that first thing, then, that message that we want to tell everyone before everything else that you need to
do? Definitely is to accept, really accept and surrender, And maybe Tova, you want to elaborate on what that is, or?
Sure, I'll talk about it. For everybody, it seems like a very simple concept. Like, if you would have told me in the darkest of my times, and still when things come up, when I'm fearful, when I'm anxious, when I'm feeling those yucky feelings, and feeling not enough, or feeling like this is never going to get better, despair, whatever you're feeling, whether it's on the anxiety end, whether it's on the depression end, it's a certain acceptance. And it seems so simple. If you would have told me this in the time when I was feeling that, I'd be like, be quiet. Like, what do you mean? You don't know what I'm like. How could I accept this? It's not acceptance where you're like, okay, I just have to accept that my life is bad and that's it. It's a deep surrendering to what's going on and to the present moment. Because when we constantly resist our feelings or resist what's going on in our life, we're spending so much of our energy saying like, no, this can't be, or I don't want it to be this way, or my life went in this direction and it's scary and I can't face those feelings. So we're spending our body, our physical body is using so much energy to resist those uncomfortable feelings, which hurt. And our mind is using so much of its mental power to resist those and make it feel better. And how could it be better? And focus on fixing it. And because we want to fix ourselves, right? We want to repair it. You can't do that until you fully accept and be like, yes, this is painful. This is like hell. This is,
yeah.
And sort of like lean into it and be like, and feel it. And it's going to be super, super uncomfortable. But, as they say, the only way to go through, to get past is to go through it. You really have to go through it and be like, this hurts, and feel it and accept it and let it wash over you and almost like lean into it. And it's a process, and it sounds scarier than it is, because once you do it, it hurts. it feels awful, and it could take time, and you're like, when is this going to end? And you want to know when it's going to end and how it's going to end and whatever, and you don't know the answers. We don't know the answers. There's a God above who put you in this for a certain situation, is redirecting you and whatever, and you just have to let it flow and go with the flow, which is the scariest and the hardest thing I ever had to do, is really go in the flow that God is bringing me. This pain is for a reason.
Yeah.
This hurt for a reason. The suffering, this not, we'll get into the difference between pain and suffering in a minute. This is for a reason. And then let yourself feel it, and let yourself feel the wide range of yuck, and surrender to it. And what happens once you surrender to it? What happens? That's where the magic happens, because you can't feel any worse. You can't, this is it. Like you can't feel any more awful. You have to let go. And when you let go and you realize, and you let go of that ego of, I need to fix it, I need to change it, I need to control it, and you feel, and you let go to God, and you say, right, because once you realize that you're not the one who's going to control it, and the more you stuff it, the worse it gets, in a way, the longer you prolong your pain. Once you realize that you're not the one who's doing it, and you just have to surrender it, you realize the only thing left is the higher power, is God. And you start just, suddenly that's where the magic happens, where it's not like a delicious magic, but it's I don't know how to explain it, Shipra, maybe.
It's better than where you were.
Right. It's really the alternative. The only alternative. It's the base point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the base point of what you do, how you can then go on to healing and go up. Right. 100%. It's the base point, because if you're not accepting it, if you're fighting it, if you're like, it shouldn't be this way, and how could I fix it, and go into the modes of like, what could I do to, fix, change it, anything but this, right? Then you're on the wrong path, because you're in like the spiral. As soon as you accept it, and you realize, like, God, like, there's nothing left I can do. Like, you brought me here, and we definitely have a big say in our path, and I brought me there, but then, and only then, when you totally give up of yourself, and totally give up of your evil, and totally strip it, and totally realize, like, pick up your hands and say, and come to a full acceptance, and accept, this is where I'm at right now. This is where it is. And God, and God, like, what now? And only when you let him in, and let that happen, and let yourself go through it, then you're letting God in. Then you're giving up of your, like, wall, and your blockage, and your whatever, and you're letting him in, and then he can do his magic together with you, because we're partners. Then the magic could happen.
Yeah. But together with your neshama, because it's the ego that's trying to fix everything. Your ego's just like, no, I got to fix this. I got to do this. And it's like, when you surrender, and that kind of gets put to the side, that's when the real work can start. That's when the real work can start.
And like, sometimes I ask myself the question, like, what is the difference between just like giving up hope and surrendering? What's the difference?
Well, surrendering, I look at it's more of an acceptance. As a giving up seems like there's a dead end. There's like, you're just kind of, you've given up, and it's not, you can give up without having accepted your situation, right? It doesn't mean you've accepted. So for me, it's really about the acceptance. And when you're accepting something, that you are now able to transcend it and work from that level. If you've given up, then that's just the end. Then you've just given up. There's no, in my mind, it doesn't, you're not working or trying to get anywhere once you've given up from acceptance. But even at the time of acceptance and surrendering, you're not necessarily thinking of the next step, but you're more just like, okay, this is where I'm at right now, not forever, right now. Okay. Right. And
that piece is also very important, right? It's this idea of impermanence.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the throes of your pain, you think, how am I going to get out of this? Because it feels like it's going to be there forever. Right. I once heard this concept of like, why in happiness does it feel like it lasts for a second? Yeah. Right. Those joy moments, but your pain that feels like, this lasts
Yeah.
forever. Why is that? It's because, God is with you in your highest forms and in your lowest forms, but he really is sitting with you in your lowest forms. And it feels like it's going to be forever as he sits in you with that. He is with you, closer with you in your lowest forms, because that's really when you are sort of forced, in a sense, to accept him more,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
really just sitting with you. And think hopefully, we appreciate him and we accept him in our highest forms, and that can make it last longer. Wherever you're present and you're able to sit, that's where it could feel like longer. And wherever you're able to be present, being able to tolerate the feeling of sadness, tolerate the feeling of happiness, and just like sit in it and feel it, not like your mind somewhere else and like, on to the next sort of, and you're able to just really sit there and be present with it. That's where it happens. That's where that feeling lasts, and it can make it, you know, and knowing that this is not going to be forever. On the other side of it, knowing that this is going to pass, whether it's good, whether it's bad, knowing that it's going to pass, and it's just temporary, is a good thing too. Because like whatever it is, it's going to pass. It's going to pass, or it's going to be better times ahead. There will be, I promise you. And then there's going to be struggles ahead. I promise you that too. But really just accepting both, like being able to accept the good, being able to set the flow. It's the flow of life, right? We're not in any state forever. We're high, we're low. Like that is the human experience. That is the human experience. And it's beautiful. We get to be on this world once, or whatever. People have theories that we come back as Golem more than once, but we get to experience this lifetime, let's say, one time as ourselves. And we
Yeah.
get to choose, right? We get to choose if we're going to spend it escaping the parts that are uncomfortable, or we're going to spend it as using the parts that were uncomfortable and being like, okay, what could I learn from this? What did I see from this? And honestly, the parts where I suffered the most and with the most painful parts really opens me the most to a way larger world, to then just my everyday life. Like I was like, whoa, like it really like almost was the conduit to my next level of growth of like, there's way more, that because I knew there couldn't just be this. This
Yeah.
is not just like the
Yeah.
pain, the everyday life, the hustle. Like there has to be way more than this, right?
Yeah. But that's going back to what you said about the payoff, right? Like, so maybe it does hurt and it can be painful to sit through certain feelings and experience certain things in life. But, the way I look at it is like my greatest, darkest days led me to like the happiest, like my happy days that I experience now, more connected, are like way more than the happiest days I've experienced when I was on medication. Like I didn't realize you can reach that level of happiness and that level of joy, right? So it's that like pendulum as well. Like, so you might be sitting, have to transcend certain emotions and certain feelings, but from my experience, and maybe from your experience too, it led to way more joyful, happy moments and days.
Yeah. What I call it is like my waking up,
Yeah.
like waking up to myself, waking up to my human experience, waking up to that experience. Like, up until that point, like I did feel I'm a highly sensitive person. I felt both ways. But when I suddenly like woke up, and suddenly when I was like, realized how disconnected I was from myself, how disconnected I was from my soul and from whatever else is going on. Like when you just like your mind is expanded and your connection is expanded, you realize whatever you go through in life, more connected, is that much richer. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
There are many, many moments still of pain. And there's many, many moments where I have to take out my tools. Many days I take out the tools that I've learned that are healthier tools and better tools um, since then. And it clicks, and then you can just move on, right?
Just wanted to say one thing on fear. I just heard the other day, somebody that's really been helpful in my journey, still to this day, Dr. Kim Jaramo, she had a cute like analogy for fear is false evidence appearing real. So, which is like, was sat so well with me and made fear that much less of a thing to be afraid of. Cause it's like, really, it is just false evidence and it's appearing real. Like your mind and your thoughts are creating this fear.
Yeah, it is our mind. And it is, and you know what? Sometimes it's like, when you had past bad experiences and it comes up again, it's like so hard to not think, well, this is happening again. And
Yeah.
look, and like your mind to just go right back there, right? That's what trauma is.
Yeah.
But to know that we're above that and to be like, that's false evidence. Maybe
Yeah.
that happened then, but that's not what's happening now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And being able to tell yourself that. So thank you. Thank you. That is so
Yeah.
great. False evidence appearing real.
Yeah. I thought that was
Love
so brilliant. Yeah. I really like that.
that. So I think that we're splitting this up into two parts
Yes.
because, right?
Yeah, well, it was really incredible to have you share everything that you have shared. It's been super helpful for me, and I'm sure it will be for other people too. And
Thank you.
I think moving forward, though, people would love to hear what has worked for you, what has worked for me, how, you know, coming in both our cases, healing was started from coming off our medication first and then accepting, right? You can do a variety of things to help yourself, but if you don't come from this place of acceptance, of surrender, it won't necessarily work. I don't want to say it won't work for sure because I haven't experienced that, but from my experience, it wouldn't have helped me. It didn't help.
Yeah.
All the things that I've done that have helped me now have only helped me since that one night back in Itania when I was just like I can't, like, there's no one else but you, God. Like, I'm just surrendering to you. Then everything that I had been doing kicked in and started helping. And I think you've shared that that was a similar experience for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, it's an ongoing process, Shifra. Let's just like make that clear,
Yes.
like
Yes.
surrendering and giving up and saying, it doesn't just happen once. Yes, there was this one, I would say, episode or time frame where I realized that and that became apparent to me, right? There was this
Right.
time where when I was getting off my medication, let's say, and I was in like the worst of it, and my chemicals in my body, everything was just right. And when I realized, like, wow, there's nobody else. But then it is a practice. It's a key
100%.
practice every day when things don't go your way, when things are painful, when things, seem to like, go, the odds are against you, right? It's a practice. Giving up, letting go. This is God's way of redirecting me. This is meant for me. This is for a purpose, right?
Yes. Yes.
Something, and you have to continue doing it. And then in conjunction, Shifra and I discussed, we're going to maybe break it down to 2 or 3 real ways that have worked for us, healthy ways that work for us to help us transform. And notice the word transform instead of change or fix, because those are like, sort of ways you just want to control the situation. I just want to change it. I just want to fix it. Right. We're right where we need to be. You're right where you need to be, no matter where you are, whether you're at a more successful time in your life and less successful time in your life. You're right where you need to be. And we have the power to help heal and transform ourselves and not continue. And I would love to next time discuss 2 or 3 or 4 ways that we have been able to help ourselves do that. And maybe we can help other people as well.
That sounds amazing. I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Shifra, thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.